Getty Angela Merkel is risking the wrath of Donald Trump. According to the Federal Statistical Office FSO, Germany exported £44.6 billion, €50.5 billion more goods into the US than it imported from there, up from £43.1 billion, €48.9 billion in 2016. It is the latest evidence of a growing gap between what Germany has been exporting to the US than it imports there. In 2000, the export surplus was reported to be £12.9 billion, €14.6 billion, and since the turn of the millennium the surplus peaked in 2015 at £47.2 billion, €53.5 billion. Last year, the US was largest buyer of German goods, with exports from the EU powerhouse totaling £98.4 billion, €111.5 billion. We have a massive trade deficit with Germany. Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Germany's total trade with China rose to €164.75 billion, €186.6 billion last year, from €150.27 billion, €170.2 billion in 2016. The US is now reportedly considering imposing high tariffs on steel and aluminium imports and introducing quantitative restrictions to protect the domestic economy, while the EU is threatening punitive tariffs on bourbon whiskey and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The EU believes that world trade should be free and fair, with a spokesman for European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker saying, "We're ready to act swiftly and appropriately if our exports are affected by US trade restrictions." Mr. Trump has long been highly critical of surpluses of other states in trade with the US. Getty. Trump and Merkel met in the Oval Office of the White House last March. In a tweet last May, the US president said, "We have a massive trade deficit with Germany. Plus, they pay far less than they should on NATO military. Very bad for US. This will change." In a recent interview with TV presenter Piers Morgan, Mr. Trump added, "I've had a lot of problems with the European Union, and it may morph into something very big from a trade standpoint. It's a very unfair situation. We cannot get our product in. It's very, very tough, and yet they send their product to us. No taxes, very little taxes." Tuesday, August 8, 2017. Angela Merkel. Through the years, the latest figures were revealed after the International Monetary Fund (IMF) warned last month that German Chancellor Angela Merkel is putting the country on course for a US backlash over Germany's staggering trade surplus and rampant protectionism. According to the preliminary figures from the FSO, China maintained its position as Germany's most important trade partner, after passing the US in 2016 to become Germany's largest partner. The Netherlands were second, with goods traded valued at €156.4 billion, €177.3 billion, followed by the US with €152.3 billion, €172.6 billion. Exports to the UK fell from €75.8 billion, €85.9 billion in 2016 to €74.5 billion, €84.4 billion in 2017 amid growing Brexit concerns in Europe.